Hello and welcome to today's YouTube video. It's the No Place to Be YouTube channel, and we're answering the popular question of whether the Speed Twin, Triumph Speed Twin, is a good first bike. Is it suitable for a beginner? And should you spend your hard-earned cash invested in one of these things? Well, I feel like I'm pretty good to answer this question for everyone, given that this was the first bike I ever purchased. So a little bit of a background information on the Triumph Speed Twin. It is the fastest of the Bonneville range, and it has the most power too. So it has 98 brake horsepower, and it comes with the 1200cc high power tuned Triumph engine, which is the same as the Triumph Thruxton. So the T120, for instance, has the 1200cc high torque variation, which only generates around 78 brake horsepower. So this is the highest powered Bonneville in the range. With that being said, then, does it make it a good bike for a beginner? Is that too much power, too much torque? Or can it be managed if treated with respect? And I have to say, I think I agree with the latter, and from my own experience, I can't say that it's a bad bike to invest in. I think as long as you treat this thing with respect and, you know, understand the fact that it can do 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds. Well, with that being said, no, I still agree. I think it's still a great bike for a beginner, and you just have to factor in that it's an engine strapped between your legs that can go like shit off a shovel. So I'm going to address the fact that it has 3 rider modes, and I think that these are an exceptional asset to use if you're a beginner. Obviously, rain mode, being the first, limits the power and the acceleration of the bike quite significantly. So if you feel like when you get it, you just want to have a little bit of practice before you open her up, I would advise keeping it in rain mode for a while, just to get used to the bike, the weight, the feel, and this will help massively with your confidence when first using the bike. The second rider mode being road, which is basically the standard road mode for the bike. Nothing amazing, it just does the job nicely, good amount of power delivery. And then the third being sport mode, which makes the thing insanely fast. I feel like the difference between road and sport mode on this thing is incredible. And the acceleration, the snatchiness in sport mode is next level. So I'd say until you get used to the bike, stay clear of sport mode. But when you build that confidence, you really will enjoy this thing in sport mode. And as long as you ride defensively, you don't take corners too aggressively, and treat the bike with respect, it's absolutely fine for a beginner. And it just all comes down to how you treat the thing and ride it on the road. So, like I said, this was my first big bike, and I can say with no regrets at all. It's fantastic, and I'm so happy I bought it. It comes in at around 190 kilos, which is about 30 kilos less than the other bigger Bonnevilles, like the T120s. So it's quite flickable, easily manageable weight. The weight is low down, so for a beginner, most people can flat foot these things. It doesn't feel uncomfortable, and it's really easy to manage. And you factor that in with the high power though, and it does move really quick, so you've just got to be sensible with it, and you can open the throttle and before you know it you're doing 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, and that's something you've just got to be careful of, and obviously make sure you're doing it safely. But yeah, it's a pretty lightweight bike, so it's easy to manage, and the short wheelbase means you can move it around and flick it really easily, and I think for a beginner it's actually a really nice bike. The only downside I would say is the price. So if you are going to go and buy one of these things, just make sure it's the bike you want. Make sure you really are into biking before you go and spend your hard-earned money on one of these things. Brand new, that will set you back over £10,000. Second hand, you can pick them up from under 9,000 with a few miles on there, which is probably the best option, and you'll save yourself some money on what is a bike that's got hardly any miles on. These things are very torquey, so obviously you can put it in pretty much any gear and it will still pick up. So you can be going 30 miles an hour in 5th gear, even 6th gear. If you open the throttle, it'll give that clunky, torquey sound, but it will soon start picking up pace, and it moves in any gear. So that's obviously something you have to be wary of and understand, that this thing is quite torquey, but I don't think it's particularly threatening. It doesn't feel too much for a beginner rider, and if you ride sensibly, this thing will give you the time of your life. There's never been a day where I've swung my leg over it and turned the engine on that it's not instantly put a smile on my face. Every time I ride it, it feels fantastic, and you might think you know all there is to know about the bike, and then it'll go and surprise you, and you'll soon realise just how amazing piece of engineering this is. The clutch is fantastic, the gear changes are so smooth, the power delivery is amazing. The aesthetics are incredible. I mean, there's nothing better than getting a coffee, sitting back, admiring your bike, just have the passers-by coming by and looking at the bike and admiring it, and asking you questions about it. You'll never cease to have conversations with anyone, especially the boomers of the world that have said they'll come up to you and say, "Oh, I had this bike when I was a lad, but it looks a bit newer now," and they'll tell you all about the old Triumphs they used to own. But it's fantastic, great conversation starter. Looks fantastic, moves like a brand new sports bike. The only thing I'd say is the power drops off significantly above about 100 miles an hour, but that's absolutely fine because who's going to be doing those speeds anyway, especially if you're not on a track, and especially not as a beginner. So yeah, I can't praise this bike highly enough. I think it's amazing. It ticks all the boxes. You can even tour on it, short cafe racing durations, or across Europe or into Scotland. And I've probably done about 2,000 miles on this thing already, and I have to say it's the best thing I've ever done, and I couldn't promote the bike highly enough. If you do like the look of it and you do feel like you want to go and grab one, I would advise everyone test rides one, or certainly watches a lot of these YouTube videos to see what you make of the bike. But if I was a beginner, I had the money, I would not be scared of this thing. Don't listen to too many of the gatekeepers in the world telling you to get a 650 to practice on for a year. It may help you become a better rider, but it's going to set you back more money, and you're going to have to wait longer to get the bike you want anyway. And you're going to have to sell it and then get the new one, and it's going to be more hassle. In my opinion, if you're over the age of 24, which you have to be anyway in the UK to have a 600cc plus bike, just go and get the one you want. It's going to take you longer and more money otherwise to buy two bikes and sell the first one. And just ride safe. But obviously I put some footage over today. Hope you have enjoyed the video, and do let me know below if you like the bike or if you're thinking about getting it for your first time as well. And let me know your thoughts on whether this would be suitable for a beginner or whether we're just absolutely crazy. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for more content to come. Cheers guys.